What is it about the M50 that's divided so many people? Is this headphone still relevant today? Is it worth the purchase? All these answers and more can be had for around $350. Nah, stick around, let's talk about it. Greetings, friendo, and welcome aboard. Stuart Charles here, HomeStudioBasics.com, helping you make sound decisions leading to a beautiful audio experience that will make you fall in love with music, not gear, all over again. So, what is it about the M50 and the M50X that's divided so many people over the years? This product sits in a weird cross-section of not quite audiophile worthy, but not quite consumer either. I think many audiophiles would scoff at the notion of someone actually enjoying it, which I think is a bit unfair. It's not a true audiophile headphone in the sense that it's not really close to neutral or correct, but it's not quite V-shaped or trashy sounding either like your typical drugstore dog food. I think it's an appropriate headphone for someone who's fairly new but also a bass head. That is to say that at a particular time and place in your journey, it's kind of just one of those things you'll end up experiencing regardless of if it's right or wrong. It is a headphone that will completely change your life if you're new, or fairly new to the hobby as I was back in 2013. Last time we discussed a headphone that changed my life back in 2010, the Sony MDR7506. But I was surprised at just how amazing the M50 sounded to me when I first heard it. I was in college at the time and received the headphone as a Christmas gift. When I went back to school for the spring of 2014 semester, I had the headphone around my neck seemingly night and day without taking it off. I even slept with it. Because I was a bass head, everything about it was perfect for me. The elevated bass shelf for everything below 200 Hz, a detailed treble with lots of sparkle, and a lively mid-range with plenty of focus on instruments and small details. It's a headphone I primarily use for listening to instrumental hip-hop beats, and for that it's hard to beat even to this day. No pun intended. So is the M50X still relevant today? As long as people are still willing to purchase it, of course. It's hard to argue with someone who enjoys what they have. I certainly love my time with them immensely, and I wouldn't mind having a Bluetooth pair for the gym, to be quite honest. I do believe it's a headphone you'll outgrow as you become more familiar with the hobby and try more products. But for someone just getting their feet wet, I still think it can work in certain circumstances, and it's certainly not bad sounding, regardless of what some snob like Metal HD600 tells you. I don't like the fact that both the 50X and 40X are marketed as reference/studio monitors, as their sound signatures indicate anything but. What I do like is the 50X is ruggedly durable, portable, folds up and contorts in a myriad of different ways, and works well without an amp. I would stick to harder genres as it doesn't really pair well with certain types of music. It's also not very comfortable and the pads tend to harden and crack over time. Even so, I remember sitting in the graphic design lab feeling like something was going on outside almost constantly, a testament to the fact that the soundstage is actually quite decent, at least more so than people give it credit for. This is especially noteworthy for a closed-back headphone that, let's be honest, sounds like a closed-back for the most part. My impression certainly could have been the way the track was recorded, and certainly I understand that on a deeper level the more gear I demo. It's also interesting to me how hip-hop songs tend to elicit those types of small details, something I wasn't really aware of before I tried the M50. Also, keep in mind that back when I owned the M50, the 50X hadn't come out yet. I got a chance to demo the 50X a year or so later in 2014 and appreciated its somewhat more subdued treble response, an issue apparent in the original that certainly needed to be rectified and was. The cable also upgraded to a detachable 2.5mm if I remember correctly. It could have been 3.5, but the overall build retained that same rugged quality that I really came to appreciate over my 5 years with it. I would recommend the 50X if not for the fact that the DT770 is insanely comfortable and thus should be looked at first for aspiring bass heads. Even so, looking at graphs side by side reveals that the M50X is actually a bit more neutral, with a less extreme bass shelf and a smoother response, if you can believe it. This is partly why I get irritated with the audiophile hobby sometimes. I feel as though this stuff can border on elitism, and generally speaking, people tend to parrot what others say without really understanding how frequency response works or how a headphone actually sounds in practice. If you look at these two graphs side by side, there's no reason why the M50X should get as much hate while the 770 garners a weird cult-like following, even though it's arguably a more flawed headphone. This is of course up for debate, but I'm just giving you some food for thought. Be cool, honey bunny! So, are you ready to dive deeper down the rabbit hole? Click the playlist to my right and let's explore some more of my experiences in the hobby, which will undoubtedly help you on your own journey when deciding on which headphones to buy. I'll see you over there.